You're listening to Seek Travel Ride, a podcast all about taking incredible bike adventures. And if you love the conversations that you hear on the podcast, you can experience them live. Join me in London on May 14 and 15 for Beyond the Bike. It's going to be a special night of adventure cycling stories, bike adventure film screenings, and a live Q&A with a panel of previous podcast guests. Tickets are on sale now. They will sell out fast. So make sure to grab yours at the link in the podcast show notes in your podcast player app. Today's show sponsor is Old Man Mountain. If you're into bike adventures, you need to strap gear on your bike. Old Man Mountain have the right equipment to get you there on your bike travel journey. Check out their new product line, Hemlock Bag with Flip Cages. Check them out at oldmanmountain.com. Support the brands that support the podcast. And now, let's listen to today's episode.
I totally bailed on the Netherlands plan. I did not do that. I went across Sweden, Norway, and then when I got to the North Cape, I was like, well, now I have to turn back, but I still have some weeks off. So I decided to cross Finland.
I called, I don't know how many shops that were like too far away, that didn't have boxes, that maybe didn't. And then I found one that was like, yes, we have boxes for sure. And by that point, I didn't have that much time. And I was like, okay, great. Let me go to that shop. I'll get the box and then I'll figure it out in the hotel. I got to the bike place and they were only selling folding bikes, pretty much. So they were all like tiny boxes.
Well, in 2020, when COVID was happening, I decided to create a bike travel fest, but online through Instagram. So I get together a lot of people and I plan a schedule. There were different people talking about their trips. It was great. And I thought, this is amazing. We have to do it like in person.
Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share the stories and experiences of people taking amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello listeners! I'm your host, Bella Malloy, and today I've got a fantastic episode lined up for you as I'm joined by three incredible women who are not only bike passionate travellers themselves, but they're also the founders of the Bike Travel Fest. It's an event dedicated to bringing the bikepacking community together in Spain. We have Laura Rinson, Berta Moya and Cris Maristani. Each have their own unique journey into bike travel, and as I speak with them today, we're all going to learn more about them, hear about some of their own bike adventures, and how falling in love with this form of slow travel has since morphed into them leading and creating this amazing festival. The Bike Travel Fest is now in its second edition, and this year's event is going to be taking place in Granada. For those of you who follow ultra races, this is actually the same stunning region that plays host to the legendary Badlands course. So you need to picture wide open landscapes, semi-desert terrain, characterised by dramatic rock formation, canyons and vast arid plains, a truly unique landscape in Spain. Building a community around bike travel is something Laura, Berta and Cris have worked very hard towards, and they have purposefully structured the event to be as inclusive as possible. They're bringing their collective knowledge together to put on a festival which celebrates the fun, which is bike travel, in a bid to encourage and inspire more people, especially women, to experience the fun that comes with embracing these kinds of adventures. Along with awesome gravel rides each day, they're also going to be hosting skills workshops, yoga sessions, film screenings, and have a big focus on community. There's going to be lots of time also spent in having people share their own personal bike travel stories and experiences because, listeners, much like this podcast, it's in the act of storytelling where we often find the seeds of inspiration to take on our own adventures as well. Events like Bike Travel Fest especially pique my own personal interest as it's something I think we need to see more of, and I really love and embrace that idea of community building around bike adventures. So whether you're an experienced bikepacker or someone who'd like to get started in this form of travel, I'm pretty certain that today there's going to be plenty of us to take away from our conversation. Laura, Berta and Cris, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. What an intro.
Well, what an intro. What a festival you're bringing together, I think. Clap my hands to all of you there. And also a special shout out to Celia, who unfortunately is not with us today. So listeners, there's 4 of us. There could have been 5. I think that could nearly be a record for the pod. I'm excited to learn more about you and this awesome festival that you've got coming together. But listeners of the show will know the question that I start my show with, and I ask it of all my guests, so I'm going to ask it of each of you, is do you remember the very first bike you ever rode? So Laura, I'm going to go with you first. Tell me about the first bike ride you ever remembered.
My first bike ride, I remember when I first ride a bike. I remember I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And in Spain, I don't know, in other countries is the same. We used to ride a bike with 2 wheels, of course, but then we have 2 small wheels at the back for the balance. And I remember the day my parents decided I was old enough to take these 2 little wheels. And I was so bad at it. My parents were very pain at their back because they were trying all the time that I was not falling. They always remind me, like, Laura, do you remember that you were maybe 2 or 3 days trying to learn how to ride a bike? And your sister, we gave her a bike and she learned without any help.
Oh, what a burn. Thanks, Mum and Dad. And look where you've gone on bikes ever since.
Yeah, I think since then I always ride a bike.
What about you, Berta? What's your first bike memory?
I think my first bike memory would have to be in summer, because I was born in Spain, but I grew up in Belgium. But every summer we would go to my grandma's house in Spain. And my mom is one of 8, so they had loads of old bikes there stored. And so when we arrived in summer, one of the first activities was like going into the garage and like finding your bike for the summer, essentially. And so it would be like, really old bikes from my aunts and uncles. And so I remember like the excitement of like, arriving and picking a bike. And I have an older brother, so he's 4 years older than me. So he could already ride a bike. And I really wanted to also be able to ride. And so I remember like one summer I was, with a really old, I guess, like bike from the 60s, like really trying to keep up with my brother, and first with trainer wheels. And so that was already exciting, just being able to like, cycle by myself. But then I also remember when it came to like remove those wheels and be just a 2-wheeler, and I felt really. And I remember like, the typical thing of like my dad like holding me at the back of the bike and then letting go, and all of a sudden you're like, and you like realize that they've let go, and it's not that you can't do it, it's just that you're freaking out and then you just fall over. I remember doing that a couple of times. But also I just remember that feeling of, like excitement and feeling like free and just roaming around and by yourself in summer holidays and all of that. And I think I still kind of carry that feeling. And I think maybe a lot of people have that, like when you get on a bike, of like that kind of childlike feeling of, being excited and free. And that's something I really enjoy.
Oh my God, it fills my heart to hear that. I love that so much because I personally feel that so much. I always and I hear that on my show, like freedom, free, wee, they're the sort of things that we probably thought of out loud when we were little kids, and the idea that you keep it in your soul now, I love it so much. And Cris, what about you then? What was your first bike ride like?
I gotta say that I'm impressed by your memory, girls, because I do not remember being on training wheels or anything like that, okay? Right? And we all learn the same way. But I will say that my first memory getting on a bike was when I was 9 and I did my first communion. I asked for a mountain bike. That's all I wanted, right? And because like any other kid, I was growing up so fast, my parents decided to get me a huge mountain bike because they wanted that bike to last forever, basically.
A
So
smart economical decision, yes.
when I first got in that one, it was like, uh, how am I gonna ride this? Like it was way bigger, way too big for me. But yeah, that bike stood with me for like, I don't even know, until I was 18 probably. So
Wow, that was a really big bike, wasn't it? They got their good value for money out of that one. Could you actually touch the pedals if you sat in the seat, or did you have to like only pedal standing up?
probably not. It was like, can you put the seat lower? Like, no, more, more. Please.
I love it. But since those first days of riding a bike, and I love that each of you have sort of like a really unique story there, you've all sort of come to bike travel in very different ways. And something that really struck me is just the power of that point of difference when you're building something that you're doing now with Bike Travel Fest, because it's through all these individual unique experiences that collectively you are able to build this big knowledge bank. And whether it's about routes or rides or different countries or terrain or style of bike travel, having a different perspective is what you are able to share with everyone. And I love that as well. Which of the three of you started with bike travel first? How did bike travel come to being? Laura, would that have been you?
There is a story here.
Yeah.
Oh, let's settle in. We need our popcorn.
Well, in 2020, when COVID was happening, I decided to create a bike travel fest, but online through Instagram. So I get together a lot of people and I plan a schedule. There were different people talking about their trips as we didn't have nothing better to do. It was great and a lot of people was actually following this festival. And I thought, this is amazing. We have to do it like in person. But I was on my own and I thought it was like too much for me. But suddenly I heard that Cris was thinking about doing something similar.
Oh,
Cris, how did you come up with this similar idea then?
So here what happened is that last summer I took my first ever career break and I went on a bikepacking trip for 3 months. I didn't plan anything. I just took off and I had been following Sisters in the Wild for a long time and I knew that they were doing their summer gathering, which I didn't know what it was really, just by what I saw on the internet, right? And it seemed really, really cool. So I decided to start my trip there in that festival. So I went there. I flew to Manchester, biked to the Lake District, where they celebrate it every year. And when I got there, and I saw that we were 300 women.
Wow, how awesome. Big shout out to you, Sisters in the Wild. I love what you're doing, by the way.
Yes, I was amazed. I was super impressed by everything, like how everyone was there, just like if we were all best friends, we were all willing to help each other, learn, like challenge each other on the length of the routes because they also offer like different lengths, doing all the workshops in the afternoon. It was just so inspiring that I walked up to Charlotte, the founder of Sisters in the Wild, and I was like, how do you do this? Like, we don't have this in Spain. This is amazing. She said, okay, well, build it. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean build it? And she was like, yeah, you don't have it in Spain, then you can do it. I offer you my help. Like, you can call me, ask me any questions you have, and I will guide you through the process. So I left after the summer gathering was done. I left on my trip and I had the idea already in mind. Okay, Charlotte said I could do this. How can I do it? Blah, blah, blah. And then when I came back to Spain, we went on a little trip together. It was like a weekend getaway. Berta was there and Feria was there too. They were asking me about my trip and I told them about Sisters in the Wild summer gathering. And I was like, and Charlotte, you say, oh, do it. And then Berta goes like, okay, let's do it. We can do it. I want to do it too. And I was like, wait, what? And Felia had the same reaction. So we were like, okay. I felt like Laura too at the beginning. I was like, I'm not going to do it on my own. Like, this is too much. to organize this one person alone. But when they both offer me, let's do it together, I was like, okay, are we doing this for sure? So I created a Telegram group with the three of us, and then a friend that we have in common, the four of us, Iri Aprendes, she manages a community in Spain. It's called Soy Ciclo Viajera, and we all got to know each other because of that, because we were going to all those events. She told me that Laura had this idea and she wanted to do the same thing. So Laura jumped in, and that's when everything started.
It's almost like it was meant to be an organic meeting of minds. The fact that, Laura, you had started something in COVID that started out virtually in a way, and that, Cris, you went up to this event as the part of your 3-month tour. By the way, a 3-month tour with no planning. I love this so much. To me, that is the ultimate adventure. Berta, what about you? It sounds like you were involved a bit in maybe was it in like the gravel riding community, or were you bikepacking before then as well? Cris mentioned you were there as well going, yeah, I'll help. But how did you get into this side of the community as well?
Yeah, I mean, I just instigated Cris to I was like, sure, do it, and we'll do it together. No, but we're actually, the nice thing about, I guess, Rare Femmes and this Bike Travel Fest is that it's a community coming out of a community as well, in a way. As Cris mentioned, we all met through a community called Soy Ciclo Viajera, which is encouraging women also to travel by bike together. Yeah, it's generally more like weekend trips or longer trips together, and that's how we all know each other. And I actually started bike traveling more through that. So I had an interest in traveling more by bike, but I didn't necessarily, hadn't necessarily done any long rides. I'm not super sporty from the get-go, so I was like, oh, can I do it? Can I not? And so, finding a group of women that ride together and like have a very like supportive environment was super encouraging for me. And just a couple of years later, I'm like, yes, bike traveling, let's go, let's do it.
Can I ask you a quick question there? You know how you were saying you're not super sporty and you were doing sort of small things. I find that there's so much of bike travel and adventure that rubs off from being surrounded by people, and you hear and see what they do, and then it puts ooh, maybe I could do that too. Can I ask you, just randomly, if you were to plan your own unlimited bike adventure, what would your ideal adventure be? So this is a solo thing. So you're going to go out on your own for bike travel. Where are you going for? How long are you going for? What type of riding is it going to be?
Oh, wow. Wow, what a question.
It's sort of 3, isn't it? But anyway.
Yeah, that's a great one for sure. I mean, I don't necessarily know like geographically where that would be right now, but I love the idea of like being somewhere where you can camp and also camp and know that you can and that you're not going to get into trouble for it. Like once I was traveling but I was like kayaking in Sweden, and there you can like camp anywhere, and I was like, oh my god, amazing.
It's part of their culture.
Yeah, like having that culture of people being outdoors and having facilities. I think that's something I would do. And then something that would mix landscapes, I think. So like being able to be like for a few days away from civilization, but then also when needed, being able to go back in and maybe, having a nice meal and being able to, buy groceries and see people. And then when you want, you can also then just go back into the wilderness.
Yeah. Because what I was getting at there is I feel, and I would use the word osmosis, which is sort of like it rubs off on you in a way, because I think when you start socializing with people that do these sort of things, it is through storytelling that you get your own inspiration as well. And I wonder how much even the type of bike event that you would do or the bike travel that you would do now has changed since you first started in this. Because I think there is that progression that, and often we don't ever reflect back to sort of see our own progression as well. I think what I love about what you're doing with Bike Travel Fest is you're encouraging people of all levels. This isn't just for people who've done this all the time and want to get together and share their epic 9-month tour in South America story, or hey, I did North Cape to Tarifa or something, and here's is my story. Or, by the way, I went through Africa. Like, it's not about that. It can be about, hey, I actually haven't done this before, but I'm really keen to that other end of the spectrum. And it's mixing experiences up there as well. I'd be interested to know, when you first started the first festival, I think storytelling's at the crux of this as well. You must have had some attendees who must have had some amazing stories to share themselves, right?
Sure. Actually, we had people that were giving inspirational talks. Yeah, they have done like very good and inspiring trips. They were there to tell everyone who was attending, but also there were people who just did these trips, these big trips or these big adventures. Maybe we didn't know and they just applied and came. The fact that we had a lot of time to chat with each other, we had the opportunity to get to know everyone. We had the opportunity to get these stories. So it was like really nice because we knew there was some people coming that they were going to give these talks, but we had some people that we didn't know who they were, and they were giving these talks, but outside the activities.
Do you know what would be awesome if in edition number 2 you've got repeat attendees and you have someone who is more at the beginner end of the spectrum, and then they have now done something since attending the first year, and now they're all of a sudden becoming the inspirational person that passes the baton on. It's something I love about this show. It's through sharing stories, and I know that that's how it happens because listeners have gotten in touch with me saying, hey, I listened to this and now I'm doing this, or wow, I didn't think of this and they gave me the idea to go here. That must be so enriching. Like, have you had people get in touch with you from the first edition letting you know what they've done since?
We actually have one case that is very emotional for us because there's this one girl that came to the festival without having prior experience bike traveling. She had the dream of going on a bikepacking trip, but she hadn't done it, and she didn't have like at least all the resources that she needed to feel comfortable, right? So she attended the Bike Travel Fest with the purpose of learning, and she was actually like, you could tell that she was very into learning because she would ask a lot of questions. She would like talk to everybody, like get everyone's experience, and she was very, very motivated, right? And not long ago, it was like a month ago, maybe, I think, she texted in the group that we still share from the previous edition, saying that she was gonna took off on her first big adventure. She was going to Argentina. She wanted to do part of the Route 40, and she thanked us because we helped her to build confidence in herself and feel prepared for this, and with all the resources that she needed to be able to take on this adventure.
What an awesome thing. Oh, shout out to whoever you are. A big clap of my hands to you. Route 40. Oh, that's notorious. It's not a smooth road by any measure. But what an experience.
Yeah, and she's going to come to the second edition. So I'm hoping that she shares the story, of course.
Yes, this is what it's all about, really, isn't it? I think something else that I love and that I've seen here on this show is that notion of building experience with each thing that you do, but also just like that person, it's one thing to have a passion for travel or maybe even bike riding and mix them together, but it's another thing altogether to feel like you are confident and skilled enough to actually take that step. And I think that's what this is what you're aiming to do, is give people that bit of a confidence boost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just through story sharing, and it's not just through a social ride together over a day or two. It's also through practical workshops. Like skills workshops is something that you're offering up as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, like I think the best for the beginners is that we are in a base camp, so we are all the time in the same place, so they don't have to stress out like, okay, we need to move to somewhere different and we don't know where we are going to sleep. So this could be stressful for them. So I think this is one of the good things for beginners. And of course, as you said, the workshops we had in the first edition, and we will have in the second, again, different ones. But in the first edition, we had one workshops that I think it was the one that they liked the most, that it was in the maintenance of the bicycle. So we had different products, and we saw them how to use them and how to clean your bike and what to do while you are traveling. And afterwards, they could use these products in the bicycle. So last day when they left, they all had the possibility to clean their bicycles and to put some oil in the chain. And it was very nice because they all have these theoretical workshops, and at the same time they had the opportunity to use the products and see how they work.
That's such a big difference, because in this day and age, there's a certain... Sometimes you can have a bit of a confidence boost to think, well, I can access YouTube and I can see a workshop online, right? But there's so much of a difference to actually practically seeing a skill and like the theory and actually doing it as well, as opposed to, oh, I've heard that you do this, or watching, like being able to actually see it in practice and then do it. Because I think the other side of it is you also generally sometimes, and I imagine this will be the case, also find out what not to do. And a YouTube workshop doesn't always do that for you either. I have to say, one of the skills I'm challenging myself personally to learn better is my disc brake pad maintenance. It's something that, as a cautious descender, I probably use my brakes more than people more often, and I live in a mountainous area, so I go through some brake pads, but I still am not someone who knows how to maintain them myself, and that's something that I definitely want to challenge myself to do a bit more now as well. Are these the type of skills that you're talking about as well? Like, have you got different levels of maintenance workshops that you're planning as well for your Bike Travel Fest?
What we have done in the first edition is just, let's say, a wide variety of topics, from bike maintenance to how to plan and navigate using Commute app, to bikepacking, which is for beginners, because we talk about what are saddlebags, what are the bags that are out there for us to be able to travel by bicycle, right? How do you distribute weight on the bike? How do you pack for whatever kind of trip that you have? And this one in particular can sound like super focused on amateur people, but the truth is that even if you're an experienced traveler, you can always learn something from there, right? You can always see a different way of setting up a bike. You can always see other tricks people have, like, and maybe take that with you, right, on your next adventure.
Yeah, massively. And it's little things where you go, oh, that's such a cool idea. I didn't even think of doing that. With each trip that I take, I have a new evolution of smart packing, I would call it. I think the other thing is bike travel is so unique. Everyone's got a different style, and no one style is right, but sharing each style is really beneficial for everyone as well.
Yeah, for sure. And also, for example, in this one, we talk about how to travel with your bicycle on a plane, which a lot of people that have
Huge.
experience with bike traveling maybe have never gone on a plane really with the bicycle. So that's another topic that is, I think, it applies to everyone really.
And it's always stressful. I think that's something actually to put out there first and foremost. All of these lessons, all of these skills are things that you can all do. You can all learn how to pack your bike. You can learn how to use a bike box. You can learn how to make it so that you are giving your bike the best opportunity to come together without being broken. But one thing you should always know, you will always be a little bit stressed about it too. And that's normal. Like, have any of you taken your bike on a plane and not been like a little bit stressed about it? And I'm not talking about the packing, because it's the bit that's out of your control that's stressful too, right?
I think all the process is stressful. Like, how do you get to the airport with your bicycle? Being sure that it's not going to get broken.
Actually, do you know what one of the most stressful parts for me has been in my bike travel ones? Because I've definitely moved, especially since bike packing and bike travel more, or cycle touring. I started my bike travel with, a bike in a hard, like a soft bag. But now I've moved to a cardboard box because I am doing, I'm riding my bike. I can't take my bike travel case with me when I'm riding my bike. And one of the hard stresses is actually finding a bike box at the other end. Like, have any of you gone through that stress as well?
Maybe I can share a story here. And actually, part of like the the bike travel fest as well, and everything we were discussing now, like, and exactly what you're saying. One thing is knowing the theory, and another thing is like applying it in practice, right? So when it comes to finding a box and all these things, I think one thing that is amazing, and also that what we aim to create here, is like having the community, right? So like you meet people in the bike travel fest, but then you also after that have a community that you can reach out to with what sometimes seems like silly questions, like, oh my god, where do I find a box? Oh my god, what do I do with the pedals? Like, I mean, all these things. That so in last December was my first time putting a bike on a plane, and I went actually with Cris and two other friends. We went to Malaysia, and that was a really amazing experience. And to get there, it was easy finding a box because I was here in Madrid, home. I had time to find a bike box and all those things. But then to head back, I was actually heading back before the others from Kuala Lumpur. And so I was there and I had like 2 days to like find a box.
Which sounds like a lot of time sometimes, like 2 days. You're not getting there and having to find it on the same day. But it's still freaking stressful.
I called, I don't know how many shops that were like too far away, that didn't have boxes, that maybe didn't. And then I found one that was like, yes, we have boxes for sure. And by that point, I didn't have that much time. And I was like, okay, great. Let me go to that shop. I'll get the box and then I'll figure it out in the hotel. I got to the bike place and they were only selling folding bikes, pretty much. So they were all like tiny boxes.
Bike. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
You think you've got the bingo card all sorted and you go there.
And I was like,
I don't have a Brompton, guys.
I was like, oh no, what do I do? And then of course, like they were like, no, don't worry, you can just like get 2 boxes together. You like glue them, you just like tape them together, and we can do it here and this. And also I went to, it was like in the outskirts of the city, so I didn't have my bike with me. I had actually took a taxi there because anyway. So I was like, no, don't do it yourself because I don't know how big the box I'm going to need. So then somehow it seemed like a good idea to go home with like 2 half boxes, essentially. Well, home to the hotel. And then I just got to the hotel and I was like, what am I doing? Because then I bought like some random like sellotape that wasn't even that good. And I was like trying the hardest to like, put together 2 quite thick cardboard boxes, and it was just not working. And it was like my flight was maybe at 9 a.m. by like 3 a.m. in my like hotel room being like, what do I do here? And I don't know how many like things of tape I put around the bike and like really hoping that it wasn't just gonna fall apart at the airport. But then I thought, okay, surely they will have one of those like wrappy, like the bubble wrap thing at the airport.
Sorry, environment, but where they like wrap like 100 meters of plastic around every suitcase.
I hate those because exactly it's like just this amount of like plastic that, and they just wrap it 100 times, like you say. But I was like, okay, this is my only option if I really want my bike to arrive in one piece. So that kind of saved me. I mean, it was expensive, but that was my savior in getting my bike back to Spain in one piece. But
which shows you that there's always a solution. I think that's the biggest one of the biggest learnings I've had from interviewing all these guests is going on a bike adventure means you're going to have to solve problems, and they're problems that you don't know even existed, but you actually solve them. Like you find a way, because I think there's no other option. You have to find a way, which is amazing. So, listeners, this is a 4-way chat, but due to different time zones and stuff, unfortunately, one of our guests has to leave early. So we are all going to virtually say thank you and goodbye to Laura. Thank you, Laura, for your time. You're awesome. I love what you're doing with Bike Travel Fest and wishing you super bike adventures as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and then there were 3. I tell you what, one of my most stressful bike things was actually... it's that inability to have control over your bike on a plane. I remember we were sat at, I think it was Milan airport. I think we were on the bus away from the plane, looking back at the plane, and you could see like the conveyor belt emptying all the cargo. I was like to my husband, oh, look, there's our bikes, they've arrived, yay. And then just as I said that, his promptly fell from the very top of the hold all the way down to the tarmac. And it was just like, oh. Tribute to the different type of packing. Like with each trip, you learn how to do things just a little bit different. And the biggest thing I've learnt with using a cardboard bike box is the importance of knowing how baggage handlers are using them. Like, you know, we write fragile on the box and think that, you know, this is how I would carry it. A baggage handler, they are really going to reef and drag that box on the ground. They have no cares given really for what's inside. And so learning to reinforce the bits of the box differently for where they're going to actually handle them was something that we've done recently differently. I have also heard, and maybe you both have had experience with this, or listeners, maybe you have, I have heard the theory that if you actually have your bike in a TV box, it gets handled very differently. I don't know if either of you have heard of that theory.
I've heard that. Because, apparently they know that a TV can break, right? But they don't know that a bike can break. But yeah, I do have a trick for this, for traveling with the carton box. What I always do instead of writing fragile or anything like that is I write everywhere, thank you for taking care of my bike.
I love that.
Have a good day. And I like put my name on it, and like I write which airport I should be picking up the bike, just to like everyone is aware that this is important for me, right?
Yeah, and it's sort of showing your thanks and appreciation.
Yes.
Psychologically, I reckon that could help. Listeners, get in touch with me. Let me know if you travelled with a bike on a plane before. Let me know, what have you done to try and make sure you have the biggest influence on your bike actually arriving at the other end in one piece. I love these sort of skills sessions. I want to go to something that you spoke about earlier, Cris, which was about giving people the skills of planning their own routes and stuff as well. You know, many people travel with a mobile. We've got so many different apps, whether it's Komoot, Ride with GPS, Strava, Garmin. I think you can even use Google Maps. Learning how these mapping softwares work to plan a route, it can make or break sometimes a bike route, and sometimes it can throw an extra layer of misadventure in there. When you think you've got the best route planned and then all of a sudden you're sent down like a road that doesn't exist, or you need to cross a river that apparently has a bridge and doesn't, or all of a sudden you were on a flat ride but now all of a sudden you got a mountain to climb. Like, is this something that you have both learnt from experience as well? Like, sometimes you need to go through the struggle so that you can help other people learn how to not have that struggle?
Yes, personally, when I started traveling by bike, I did it with my ex-partner, and she was the one doing the route planning, and I was doing other things. So that's something that I never really pay attention to. And then once I started traveling with other people, because I didn't do that previously, I just stood with that. Like, I let other people plan and do the routes and all that. So basically, I was just there to whatever people were going to take me, right? But when I started going solo, that's when I was like, okay, now I do have to plan. I need to learn what do people think when they're planning a route, right? Because it's not just about the length or the climbing that you're going to have. It's way many other things, like also what other resource, like if you're going to find resources, you're going to be able to resupply, you're going to be ending somewhere where you can camp. Like, there are so many things.
Even little things like, is there going to be a toilet? Like, I know that sounds really basic, but FYI, as a woman, especially if you're traveling through areas that are populated, like just going off and having a wild pee on the side of the road isn't something that we can all just do often. Like, I'm not saying I haven't had a wild pee before. By God, of course I have. But it is also something that, you know, until you go through that, you don't realise how, that can be too, right?
Totally. And talking about apps and all the tools that are out there, right? The different tools. I mentioned Komoot because Komoot is one of our sponsors. And what we give to participants is a premium subscription to Komoot.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. And also like 1 year to all volunteers. And they actually get to try everything, right? And like continue after the festival for another 3 months, like do all these things. And it's true that all these apps that are out there, they have so many different features, like, and we're not aware of how much you can do on them, right?
Yeah.
Why we did a specific workshop on not only what routes we were going to have in the Bike Travel Festival, but also how to make the most out of this tool in particular.
Listeners, a quick break from the episode to tell you about one of my recent bike adventures that I took. It was just a simple micro adventure, an overnighter to a beautiful old mountain hut, and I had the most incredible starry night sky to gaze out at. It was also an adventure which I took on my dual suspension mountain bike, and in the past, going out on trips on this has always meant having to carry a really heavy backpack with me because I just don't have the mounting points to put all the gear on my bike that I normally would if I use my normal gravel bike for touring. But this time was a bit different. I used the Old Man Mountain Axle Pack fork mounts, and what that meant was that I could strap stuff to my suspension forks. The genius of this system means that the suspension fork can still be in use, but all the load is actually taken through the axle pack itself. It's ingenious and it worked perfectly for me, and I 100% recommend it. You can check them out for yourself at oldmanmountain.com, and yeah, it's been awesome to finally shift the weight from my back onto the forks when I'm using my mountain bike.
Right?
Yeah, and learning the quirks of it too. I think commute, it's funny, on this show, and I put my hand up, there is a term called being commuted, which really you can be ride with GPS, you could be Strava, you could be Garmin or anything. All of the apps use open mapping software as well, so all of them have this quirk, but being commuted sounds cool. It sort of works. But where you have these misadventures, but sometimes it's also just understanding, well, hang on, if I say that I want to have a route and I'm riding on this type of a bike, the app is going to want to send me on busy roads or quiet roads or dirt roads, and sometimes it's more often than not maybe going to throw you down the more adventurous path. Something that I actually like about Komoot, which I've used myself, is on the day, the weather. I love how it shows me what the weather forecast is going to be. I love how it tells me which wind direction it's going to be in and things like that. And if I'm wild camping, it's really important to also know sunrise and sunset times as well, which is a really handy feature too, right?
Yeah, I totally get that. One of the features that I like the most is also when it tells you about the pavement that you will have in the route, because if you scroll down, you can get the information about how many kilometers are going to be on road, how many kilometers are going to be off road, if it's going to be paved, if it's not, things like that, right? I really like that part.
Something else that I did do, and it was when I had a misadventure. I remember and it wasn't to do with the software I used. It was again due to the base maps. I was on my road bike on this particular, I think I was actually on a training ride. It must have been 3 years ago. I was training for an ultra. But I was on my road bike on skinny tyres, and then all of a sudden it diverted me onto a road, which was meant to be a road, which was certainly not a road for a road bike. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. And it ended up going on for about 5 kilometres. And the first few hundred metres, you're like, this is okay, this is okay. And then you're like all about, oh my God, my bike's going to break. It didn't. But what I did was, and I think more people need to do this, you can actually sign up to OSM Maps to actually change the base map and actually flag something that's in there wrong. So this road that was dirt was incorrectly put in as asphalt. And actually, if you flag it, it changes the base map, which means that other people don't have this misadventure. I think in Komoot, Cris, you might know, are you able to flag certain sections in Komoot as well?
You are. You're able to report things.
Everybody, report and make it a better place for everyone. Equally, the other cool thing actually about Komoot is being able to share photos and features and talk about highlights of a route as well.
Yeah. That's a thing that actually helps a lot, because sometimes, you may be missing that spot that all bikers loved, because you think that this way is like the easiest or the best, or for whatever reason, right? So I personally find that very helpful to be able to see all the highlights from other people, because they're travelers, right? Just like I am. So I want to know what their thoughts were. Like maybe they planned something and they found out this by surprise, by recommendation of someone they found on the road or whatever, right? So when they report that, actually is helping the community a lot.
It also helps people discover other cool things. Like,
Mhm.
you know, when we're talking about the power of storytelling, it's through sharing our experiences that other people get motivated to do something. And it's sort of a visual storytelling in itself. I mean, if I take it away from commute and just personally, the amount of times I've scrolled through an Instagram feed where, FYI listeners, it's totally, the algorithm's totally dialed to bike travel, obviously, on my feed. But, you know, I see a landscape and I go, wow, where is that? I want to go there. Badlands is a great example of that. I mean, that is such a unique landscape there. Have you ridden in this area before, Cris?
I have multiple times. The first time that I did it actually was with the Commute Women's Rallies. They did a rally in Badlands. This was last year, last year around springtime. I was not a participant of that rally. Okay, I participated in a previous rally that was in Arizona. The thing is that in that rally, in the Arizona rally, on the first day, there was what they called a secret aid station, which basically was someone local decided to go to this point that we were going to be struggling getting through because it was like very long and like a lot of climbing and nothing like water resources or anything like that. And he showed up there with his car with coolers full of like cans of Coke, water, like some gummies, and
Trail
things.
Angel, yeah.
Incredible. And when I saw him, I mean, like we all felt the same way. Like, oh my god, I'll save her, right? And in that moment, I thought, if they do a rally in Spain, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be. I don't care where it is. I'm
Pay it
gonna show up
forward.
there and I'm gonna do that. And that's what happened in the Badlands rally, right? I just wanted to go there to do that secret station, but because I knew them previously, when they saw me, they were like, "Hey, thank you so much for this. This is great. After this, come join, keep riding with us." And I was like, I got my bike on the car and I have all my stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna ride with you and finish the
How
rally.
awesome, yeah.
So that was actually the first time I rode there. Then I went back with some friends to other areas of the route, and now I live very close actually. So I go there quite often. It's very unique. Like the landscape of this Desierto de Gorafe is just I cannot describe it with words. It's just like you don't think that you have that so close to your home, like in Spain. The colors of the desert are just like mind blowing, and also like it's incredible of the variety of landscape that they have in that area because you can go to the desert or you can go to the mountains. Like on the same day. Like I mean, it's just not that far from each other at all. So it's like you go from nothing, like absolute desert, to a total forest full of trees if you want to.
It's such a great contrast and variety there.
It is.
I guess you can climb mountains, or when we talk desert, deserts aren't necessarily just flat, are they? They're more dry, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Badlands desert, how would you describe the desert? Like I've seen photos and there's like these amazing sort of, I don't know. Is it like a canyon, would you say? Like there's amazing structures and rock formations.
It's like a canyon, and there is a lot of climbing. Badlands has a lot of climbing. It's not an easy route at all. It's so much fun. I personally like it a lot because it's very remote, but it also pass by different towns where actually those towns are so engaged to the route, to the Badlands race in particular,
Yeah.
anyone that travels around the route, because there are just tiny towns, right, where maybe life wasn't that busy, let's say, around there with tourism, right? So the Badlands route has brought these to those towns, have brought like hundreds of bikepackers that just pass by there, not only during the race, but also during the year. And everyone is so excited, so welcoming, so they really want you there. Like now that we are organizing the Bike Travel Fest there in Gore, which is part of the route. They are so I can't even describe them. Like every time we say, okay, we have this idea, we would love to screen films, like would it be possible? And the mayor calls me and says, I got everything already. Like, you're gonna have a big screen, we're gonna put it in the Plaza de Toros, you're gonna have all these like sound system set up and all this. It's just, you name it and they get it for you. They're so great, so generous.
People have this curiosity when people travel on a bike as well. It's like, oh, what brings you here? And these communities, it actually reminds me of a conversation I had recently with a previous guest, Tristan Ridley. Hi, Tristan. Tristan's currently in Mexico, making his way down south, I guess. Tristan also has been curating and creating bikepacking routes as well, and he created Kenya Bike Odyssey, which is an amazing route in Kenya. And one of the things he did there was he did it in conjunction with a local Kenyan who's really into bike travel as well and you know, cycling and things, and specifically created a route that would take them through these communities that would really benefit from people actually visiting the area. And it's like this bike tourism which actually brings people through the area, but it also brings funds through the area, and it helps, and everyone collectively does good for it. You know, similar to what you were talking there, Cris, about with Badlands, like, you know, when you were on the Arizona rally and there was a trail angel there and you wanted to be that trail angel, sort of that pay it forward sort of thing as well, isn't it? It's just a mega feeling.
It is, totally. And this is something that you experience when you travel solo. I feel like since I traveled solo, I feel like I had met so many nice people that have offered me to stay in their homes, to have food with them, to give me a ride somewhere if I had a problem with my bike, or if it was pouring and I couldn't get away from where I was, or things like that, right? Like, people are really kind. I do believe that there are way many more good people than bad people in the world. And I feel like when you go on a bicycle, everyone just receives you even more open, like, because it's so curious. It's like, it's so different. They come to us like, what is this that you have on your bicycle, right? When they see like a bunch of bags and like a lot of things happening, right? And they're like, they just want to know. They want to know what's your story, who you are, what are you doing, like, what is this, right? And they want to be part of that and contribute to your trip somehow. It's amazing.
There's been a few guests that have said it to me lately where when you travel on a bike, you appear vulnerable as well. It's a humble mode of transport that everyone can sort of relate to. You're not turning up to a place in, you know, a big SUV, fancy car, aircon and all that. You are exposed in every way. Like when you said there, traveling solo, you get more of that curiosity. I'd love to actually go back to that 3-month journey that you took. You said you took a sabbatical, 3 months, no plans, you just went, and you started with the Sisters in the Wild route, so you started up in the UK. Where did you end up, and what did you discover on this amazing 3-month tour?
So I arrived there actually with the idea of, after the festival, just riding from coast to coast and taking a boat to the Netherlands. That was my initial idea. But when I got to Lake District, where the festival was from Sisters in the Wild, I fell in love with the place. I was like, I am not leaving this place without knowing what this is. It was amazing. So I researched what routes were there, and I found a bikepacking trip. Like, that's another thing, right? You have a lot of information out there in the internet, like bikepacking.com or many other websites that people share their journeys and their routes and their pictures and their stories, right? So I found this one that they call like Lakeland 300, which was a loop in the whole Lake District of like 300 kilometers. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start with this. And I stayed there and I loved it completely. I loved the people, how everyone received me. It was amazing. Shout out to the UK, because warm showers, if someone doesn't know what warm showers is basically like couch surfing, but for cyclists, for bikepackers. Warm showers works really good in the UK. I had a home to stay every single night.
Oh, awesome. When you're first setting out on a route like this, that makes all the difference too.
It was really amazing. So because of all those things, I decided to keep like stay longer in the UK. So from there, I went to Scotland. I was almost there, right? I was in the north of England, so I went to Scotland. I ended up spending a total of a month in the UK between England and Scotland. And then I flew from Edinburgh to Gothenburg, decided to go from there to the North Cape.
Wow, you totally changed your plans. Like no plan to all of a sudden a plan. Because, hang on, originally you were meant to end up in the Netherlands, but you've gone through the UK, gone to Sweden, and then gone up to the North Cape.
Yeah,
Mega. What time of year was this?
I totally bailed on the Netherlands plan. I did not do that. I went across Sweden, Norway, and then when I got to the North Cape, I was like, well, now I have to turn back, but I still have some weeks off. So I decided to cross Finland, and I ended the trip in Helsinki.
I've heard Finland actually a land of so many different lakes and forests as well. And I've heard some great things about their off-road trails and things there too. And I've also heard that whilst it's not a country with climbs that last for a long length, it's a country that has got lots of very rolling terrain in it and steep rolling terrain. So you can actually get quite a lot of elevation in Finland without necessarily covering a lot of distance. Is that correct? Like, was that your experience too?
That's if you go off-road, and I think it's especially in the north, in Lapland. But if you do what I did, which was a little bit suicide, let's say, because I had 2 weeks left and I decided to cross Finland, and Finland is long. It's very, very, very long.
It is.
I had to take like the main road, basically, like whatever was the most direct route to Helsinki, right? Because I wanted to fly from there. And I was doing over 100 kilometers per day. And that main road, doesn't have a lot of climbing. So that was actually the reason why I could do this in such amount of time.
Oh my goodness. Were you there in mosquito season?
Yes, this was in the summer. There were mosquitoes, and also in Norway and in the UK. But I got really used to it, to be honest. Like, I'm here and they are too. It's okay.
Oh my God. Well done, Cris. I don't know about you, Berta, but I am a mosquito magnet. So I'm everyone else's natural mosquito repellent because they all go to me. Maybe they don't like you, Cris. Maybe you're lucky that way. Or did you just get used to being bitten?
No, I got used to it. I was bitten all over. Like, I just got used to it. I mean, just like the rain, it's the same thing, right? Like, I went to the UK expecting to be under the rain, and that's how it was every single day. So,
Oh my gosh. I feel like you're like next level on the Jedi Yoda scale. Like, bite me, mosquitoes, I will not react. Rain on me, rain, I do not care.
there were some hard days, I will say. I do have to recognize that some days I was like, this is too much. I should get out of here. Like, but it was so beautiful that I just continue. And fun fact, I landed in Spain at 8 p.m. the night before I had to start working again at 9 a.m.
Whoa, you really took your journey to the absolute limit of having to go back to work. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Listeners, if you could see my face, if you could see my eyes, I don't even know what they look like, but wow. I have done that before and it's always filled me with dread going to bed. But was this like, because you'd taken 3 months and you said it was a sabbatical. Were you going back to the same job you had left?
Yes, I was.
Thank God for that a little bit, right? Because you imagine it going into a new job.
No. It was the same job. I actually left my computer with my parents and said, hey, I'm just leaving all my things here from work just in case I don't come back. And I'll tell you to just go to my office and leave this stuff there.
Oh, wow. I love that you had this idea that maybe you wouldn't return to the job. Berta, you really came to bikes when you were actually living in Melbourne. So I love that you've lived in my country, in Australia. And bike travel was more something you came to as a commuter. But then you also got into like fixing bikes and classic bikes.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was actually really in Melbourne that I started cycling again. Like maybe like as I said, like as a kid I used to like ride a lot, like in summer. But yeah, biking for me was more something that I was doing like in specific locations for specific amount of time. And I was studying. I went to uni in London. And after living for 3 years there, I mean, I was very much enjoying it, but it's, London, huge city, a lot of traffic and the tube and everything. And I just didn't, and also raining all the time. So
Welcome to London.
I wasn't cycling or anything. And then I went on an exchange to Melbourne, and then I found there, I was super lucky that I was in an accommodation with like only Australians. And so I made loads of Australian friends, which was really fun. But they all cycled to go to uni or anything. Like everyone was cycling. And so I was like, oh, okay, great. Let me get in with this. And so I remember getting like a really, old, very small bike, like a green bike, I remember. And then started like, cycling around the city and like rediscovering like my love for biking, and also using a bike to commute was something like quite fun. And also to get to know the city, I think, is like the best way. Like when you get on a bike in a new city, that's like the best way to like, get lost, but also find your way quickly. Whereas when you're walking, like when you get lost, it's often like you have to walk back, and it just feels a lot longer than on a bike, I guess. And after that, I went back to London, and there I started cycling in London. And that was like for me, it was like rediscovering the city. But thanks to like cycling around, I was able to, discover like new neighborhoods that I'd never even been to before. That was kind of, I was going to say reconciliation. There was never a fight with bikes. My like rediscovery of bikes happened. And then with a friend in Melbourne as well, I remember we always like looked at old bikes, like how beautiful they were. And also, what I always had was like old secondhand bikes, and that always needed some form of fixing. And so, I really got into that as well, into, taking things apart and figuring out how I could fix them, often just breaking things and then having to take it to a shop.
There's also an element of that gives you confidence too as well, like knowing that, oh, I know how to do this, so if this problem happens, I know how to deal with it too.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing is that I'd never had a bike with gears that worked. So when I recently...
I interviewed someone who, when they were growing up as a kid, they never had a bike that had brakes. Like
wow.
This as well. Yeah. Hi, Cherry. Could you imagine that?
No, I didn't quite reach that level. But so for me, it was more the mechanics of like gears or like disc brakes. All that was very new. So when I got my gravel bike, that was like a whole new world that was opening up to me. But also, quite exciting to like understand. And I mean, I'm still no pro, but understanding how things work on the bike, it helps. Like when something happens, where it's coming from and where you should be looking.
Listeners, if you have ever tuned into this podcast and thought, wow, I'd really love to be in the same room with Bella and hear these conversations live, then you do not want to miss Beyond the Bike, a live Seek Travel Ride event happening in London on May 14th and 15th. That's right, 2 shows, 2 nights. Beyond the Bike is a collaboration between Seek Travel Ride and previous guest Jude Crywald, and we are going to be bringing you an incredible night full of bike adventure stories. Each night will feature a different panel of previous podcast guests. They're cycle tourers, bikepackers, ultra racers. They've gone long haul around the world, and they're going to be sharing real adventure stories, insights, and tips for taking on your own cycling journeys. We're also going to be having 2 film screenings. One of them is Jude Crywald's amazing Alone Across Gola film. Take it from me, it will blow your socks off. It is absolutely epic. And we're finishing the night off with a live audience Q&A where you can ask our panelists all your burning bike adventure questions. Grab your tickets now. I've put a link in the podcast show notes. Check it out in your podcast player app. Come to one night or come to both. Book your spots now. I cannot wait to see you there. Definitely. I remember I came to bike travel as someone who rode bikes, I guess, for exercise, for sport, for social activities. Like I used to, ride bunch rides with, as a road cyclist. I'd go on big rides on the weekend with a cycling club and stuff like that. And it was only 7 or 8 years ago that I first started my own bike travel journey, really. But something that I have learned is when any equipment failure has failed on my bike, there's this huge learning that has taken place with me, with that understanding that you speak about. And I've also learnt to trust my instincts a bit more when I feel like there's something not quite right with my bike. I don't know whether either of you can relate to that as well. So my gravel bike's got Shimano GRX gears, and listeners, I don't talk a lot about equipment on this podcast because I think there's podcasts that do equipment really well, and I'm all about personal stories. But something that I have learnt with I have got the Shimano shifter that likes to shred cables, unfortunately. It's just one of those things. But I've now learnt the warning signs of, I think my gear cable's on the frizz here, and I should probably think about changing my cable now before I'm automatically stuck in the hardest gear and wishing my life away because I'm in a mountainous area and I have no gears left. Can either of you relate to that notion of being confident to trust yourself when you feel like something's not quite right?
Yeah, personally, I was not doing very good with bike mechanics, and I've traveled a lot with very, very little knowledge. I basically knew whatever happened to me on the road. Like, whatever happens, I'll try to fix it. I'll try to find a way out of that place, or I try to, I don't know, look at YouTube videos, which are always helpful, or not, because there have been times where
Yeah, you find the wrong one, exactly.
uh,
Or even worse, it could be a helpful one there, but you're not in phone reception, so you don't know it exists.
yeah, totally. There was one time that I was actually trying to fix something and making it even worse. But yes, what I've done recently this past year, like after the 3-month trip, actually, because in 3 months you can have a lot of things to deal with. It's taking a bike mechanics course. Like I said, okay, I need to learn. I need to really improve my knowledge on this. And I now feel super confident about anything. Like I have even bleed my own brakes.
Yay! You legend. This is part of my this is on my list of learning to do things. Like I said, I want to learn my disc brakes so much better, and brake bleeds is one of those things as well.
Yes, totally. And I think we all should know at least the basics of our own bike, right?
Yeah. Something else that I really feel passionately about is, we were talking about community. I really feel passionately that there's that, that pay it forward thing. Cris, you were talking about there was a trail angel that provided you with drinks and food on the Kamut Women's Rally in Arizona, and so that prompted you to want to do the same in the Badlands. I think also it's the same when we pass someone who's maybe got a mechanical on the side of the road on the bike. It really makes me sad when I hear stories or I've been in that situation where I could have done with some help and people just whiz by and don't even ask. Like I really feel passionate about, even if I don't have the tools or the solution, sometimes it's the notion that even someone has stopped to try is really uplifting as well. Recently, I interviewed amazing adventurer Saoirse Potty, and she talked about that a bit when she was talking about her experience of taking a group of people down through Patagonia. And it was that we're all riding at different paces sometimes, and all of us don't need to stop if someone's got a mechanical, but just knowing that there is someone with you really is a confidence builder as well. And I feel like that's probably an element in the festival that you're creating as well for your rides, that sort of knowledge sharing is taking place too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's always, there's that comfort of knowing that if on those rides something happens, you're not on your own, and there's people that have more experience than you then can help. And we've seen like a couple of examples where that's happened. Like I remember one, it wasn't the bike travel fest, but again we were like in a group of women traveling together by bike, and like someone's derailleur like broke, but completely in such a strange way that it like flipped and got stuck in the spokes, and then it just was completely stuck. Like it would, the wheel was not moving, the chain had like the amount of tension that chain had was like incredible. And we were lucky that in the group there was a mechanic, but she was also amazing that she didn't like go in and be like, all right, let me fix it, let's keep going. She was really like with the bike owner, like she was like, okay, look at the situation, what would you do now, what can we do, and really like coming up with a solution together. And that was really like a learning experience for everyone around. Like I mean, we all gathered around, and really for me, I was there learning, because I was like, okay, if this happened to me, which it could, like what would I do? And first it was, obviously not panicking, and then just very much looking for a solution together, and then being like, okay, can we break the chain, like can we undo this, and what can we do, like can we turn it into a fixie, like until so you can get at least to the next village. Yeah, like for me that was also really inspiring in a way, in that like, okay, now if that happened to me, I can imagine what I would do. And actually Cris has a nice story with that happened to us when we were in Malaysia.
Oh, what happened, Cris?
I didn't have my bike with me. I had to rent one because my bike was, I was fixing some problems with the brakes. Anyway, that rental bike didn't have a spare hanger, derailleur hanger, and I broke it in one of the off-road.
In the middle of the jungle.
In the middle of the jungle, I broke the spare hanger and the derailleur hanger, and it looked a little bit like what Berta is describing. So we all knew what to do, like how to break the chain, how to tie the derailleur to somewhere in the bike where I could just, I basically had a bike that was not functional, except when we were going downhill. So when we were to get out of the jungle, we did have a few downhills. So that was great because I could just get on the bike and roll, right? But whenever we were on flat or like on climbs, I had to just get out of the bike and push it. It was for a little bit. We went to the closest road and I hitchhiked.
I've picked people up before, but I've never hitchhiked myself. What about you both? Was that your first experience, Cris, of hitchhiking?
Oh, no. It wasn't. During the 3 month trip, I did a lot, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. It was not the first experience. It's very handy. It's very handy because sometimes you can be really stuck somewhere, or maybe you're super tired, or maybe it's pouring rain, right? Because you are in the UK. Things can happen. But in the same, what we were talking about, people believing that people are nice, right? If you are in that mood of trusting others, a really great resource is to hitchhike.
If it's anything I've learned on this show, and you were saying it before, Cris, the world is full more of good people than bad people. Like, and people generally, if I've learned anything, really want to help you out. So I love that notion as well. An element that you have with Bike Travel Fest, and it's definitely something that I guess can be a barrier to people trying bike travel, is you camp there as well, don't you?
We do, yeah. The idea is also to, because the Bike Travel Fest, there's many different, like, we want to be as open and inclusive as possible. And we know that there's some people that have, plenty of experience, like going on adventures, or like who love camping, or they're used to it. But then we also have people that like love cycling, but maybe do it more like in a sporty manner, like on weekends, or like maybe they drive somewhere, ride, and then come back. So we also want this to be an opportunity for, whoever wants to also get into camping, and just getting the gear together, like what do I need to bring to to be able to camp and again like learn from each other in that sense. So for the first edition, because it was in winter, we wanted to make sure we had a warm space for everyone. So we actually stayed in a sports hall. We were like with sleeping bags and everything, but without tents. But our next edition, we will have a space where we can pitch tents, but also obviously whoever is more comfortable staying in accommodation can also do so. We like also the idea of having this, kind of festival vibe. Like, even I remember going to music festivals, like the music itself is super fun, but also like what happens in the campsites is equally fun. And then you can, there's like a place to meet and exchange in a much more relaxed and also very, what's the word, like in a spontaneous way. You meet people, you exchange, you chill out. And so having that like festival vibe to it as well.
Oh, 1,000,000%. I always joke with guests on the show that the best setting for this podcast would actually be in a campsite at a campfire and campfire chats, and we would just chat bike travel, which is exactly what you're doing there. I know that we're going to have listeners who are interested in this, and I think something that's really important to point out is Bike Travel Fest is happening in Spain, but this isn't exclusively for people from Spain. It's not just for Spanish speakers. It's a it's an event, like English speaking will be happening there as well. And I think it's also for all levels from what I'm gathering for you, whether you're a beginner or, have done bigger trips. Like this is really a festival, like you said, for people who are passionate about bike travel, isn't it?
It is. And actually, one note on what Berta was saying about being inclusive, we are also bringing extra tents for those who don't have tents, because there are many people that, because they don't travel by bike yet, they might not have equipment yet, right? So we are bringing extra things for those, also for people that come from other countries, because we do have participants signing in from different countries of Europe. So if they don't want to travel with all their gear, other things, we will have for them the equipment that they need at no cost.
Oh my gosh, this is brilliant. Okay, so how do people find out more? We've talked about it for so long. When is this happening? How do people find out more? How can they get along to Bike Travel Fest edition number 2?
So we have a website. We have our website. It's called Rare Femmes, RAREFEMMES, rarefemmes.com.
Rare Femmes. I love it. Yeah. And listeners, I'm going to provide a link to Rare Femmes in the show notes.
Okay, because that's our name. Like the idea of Rare Femmes, which is let's say it's the umbrella that we have created, is the brand, is to have different types of events. So the Bike Travel Fest is one of the events that we celebrate, but maybe in the fall we'll do a rally, for example.
This is awesome. I love it. Who knows? Maybe you'll do an ultra. Like you'll do all sorts of different ones. I think this is brilliant. Oh, I need to scheme and do like a Seek Travel Ride Rare Femmes collab or something. This is totally up my alley. When is this happening? When is Bike Travel Fest? That's the next most important thing, really.
So it's between the 15th and 18th of May.
What a brilliant time of year to be in a brilliant part of Spain.
Yeah, and it's a very special part of Spain as well, because it's actually an area that is like in a desert, and it's actually like the only desert in Europe. So the landscapes are kind of like out of this world. Like when you see pictures of the area, you could think that you're in like other parts. Like you wouldn't necessarily think that you're in Spain.
When I first saw pictures of this area, admittedly it was with Badlands, and when I first saw it, my default was I thought it was in America. Like I honestly thought it was in the US somewhere. It really is mind-blowing. What's the best transport access point to get here as well? Like if people are coming in from other places in Europe or the US or something, where should they be flying to, or what's the best transport hub for them to get to?
Usually people are flying into Granada.
Granada, yep, okay, cool.
Yes, even people that come from Spain, they have train options to go to Granada, or Guadix is another one if you travel by train. we are looking at the possibility of giving transfers like shuttles from Granada and from Guadix to Gor to make it easier for everyone to get there. But yeah, let's say that Gor is about an hour away driving from Granada. So that's why we're providing, we're trying to provide these shuttles.
Oh, brilliant.
Airport wise, I think like Malaga is also one that works, but then you would have to get from Malaga to, I think, Granada to come. But
All right. And I guess if people have got more questions as well, if they head to the Rare Femmes website, and I think, are you also on Instagram, Rare Femmes as well?
Yes.
and we also have a group on Strava that we encourage women to join as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I'm going to provide links to all of that in the show notes. Listeners, I've had people say, how do I access the show notes? And it's a blind spot for me because I just assume that everybody knows when I say show notes what that is. But if you go into your podcast player app and you hit on the details button, depending on which application you use of the actual episode that's playing, you're going to see a myriad of lovely little notes there and you'll have links in there. And if you click on that, you will find it. Otherwise, head to it's rarefemmes.com and you will find all the information there as well. Cris and Berta, I have had such a ball speaking with you. I think there's something energizing about speaking with a collective group of people that get excited about bike travel. I don't know if you, and I imagine that's the vibe that your event feels as well.
Yeah, that's the idea. And also like getting together for a weekend and being able to just talk about bikes, about traveling, about adventures, about mechanics, about anything you want. And knowing that the other person you're speaking to is not going to be bored out of their mind. Maybe, normal people in our daily lives, some normal people in our daily lives would. And so it's like this kind of space where you're like, yes, I can talk about this as much as I want. I can ask so many questions to people. I can get inspired. Yeah. And also just have fun, right? Like we, in the first edition, like when people, and this was also what was fun about the first edition is that so many things that we weren't expecting happened. I think it was the first day when the first riders started coming back, we had music playing to kind of encourage people and welcome them back. And that turned into like some like impromptu dance floor, essentially, where like people were like coming back from a ride and just dancing, like, and everyone just getting together, jumping around, and we're like, oh my God, like amazing energy.
There's something so awesome about that. One of the best ever events I ever attended in Australia, it was called the Gears and Beers Festival, run out of my husband's hometown actually in Wagga Wagga, although people from Wagga Wagga don't ever call it that, it's Wagga. And the best thing that they had about it was that when the event itself was over, it wasn't a case that people got to the finish line and then got to their, went their separate ways. Like there was a festival feel, like there was actually an encouragement for everyone to get together as a group and celebrate the ride together. There was food, there were drink stores, there was music, and that's exactly, I love that. I think more events need to take a leaf from that book and really, really champion that idea that what makes an event such a great time for people is the sense of it being its own community, being its own festival as well, which is in the name, Bike Travel Fest. So listeners, I fully encourage you, if you have the opportunity to head to this edition, and if you can't come to this one, it sounds like there's definitely going to be more. So keep your eyes out on that. Berta and Cris, as I wrap the show up, there's 3 questions I ask every single guest, and I'm definitely going to be asking them to you. The first one's music related. There's a Seek Travel Ride guest podcast music playlist. Every single guest of the show has a song that they have chosen on there, and it's a song that they choose to be the soundtrack to their adventures. And I want to ask each of you, which song would you choose to represent your bike adventures? So, Cris, I'm going to go with you first. Which song are you going to choose for your bike adventures?
I'm going to have to give you the song that was the song of the Bike Travel Fest on the first edition, because we had this idea of waking up people with music, right? Because there's a lot going on. There are so many activities. We do need to get on the rides also. So we were like, how can we friendly wake everyone up? And we thought of, okay, we can play some music. And when we were trying to choose the good song, we found this one that is called Life is Better on a Bicycle, which was exactly what we're trying to communicate with this whole event, right? And it's actually pretty funny. If you listen to the tune, you'll see it's actually pretty funny. Everyone at the beginning were like, what? There's music playing, like what time is it? Whatever. But then they were just like kind of going with the song, and then we just saw like everyone during the whole weekend just kind of singing it.
I think I know this song, but I'm not sure if I do. Who sings this song? Do you know?
I have
It's
No
one
idea.
of these.
Is it like life is better on a bicycle?
Yes.
No. It is? Oh my gosh. I don't know whether I'm
But
going to cut.
it's one
Listeners,
of-
I may or may not cut that out. You won't know, I guess. I'll leave it in.
But
I'll leave it in for shits and giggles.
It's one of those songs that is like, when you first hear it, you're like, oh my God, what is this? At least I was.
Yeah.
This is an earworm. This is a song that's going to be ending up in my head all day now, but I'm up for it. Berta, are you choosing the same song or have you got a different song?
Well, actually, because I actually also have a funny story with that same song, because also that song, we hadn't like thought about it before. It's not like, okay, we're going to wake everyone up with that song. It was just like on the day, I wasn't there, but I think they chose that song and everyone then had it. It's really like an earworm. And so people, yeah, just had it in their mind, and it kind of like low key became like the thing of the festival. And so when we were traveling in Malaysia a few months later, we were we had agreed that the next morning we were going to wake up at like 7 a.m. And I had said like, okay, I'm going to put the alarm and I'm just going to make sure that the three of us are awake. So I put my alarm on, and when I woke up, like Cris and Aviva were like completely like fast asleep, and I was like, okay, what can I do? What should I do? And I tried to like slowly like wake them up and make a bit of noise, and no one was moving. And I was like, all right, I know what I have. And so I started playing that song, and
Life is better on a bicycle.
yeah,
I
and they
love
were all
it.
like, oh my God, but then also like laughing. And so it was a great way to start the day, because it's one of those that you're like, oh, but then also makes you laugh, so you can't, be mad at whoever woke you up.
Listeners, sorry, not sorry for putting an earworm in your head for the rest of the day. Okay,
Yeah.
that song is down. All right, next question. You're given a choice one day. You can turn left and you're going to be on the most corrugated washboard, bumpiest road in the world. There's no soft surface. There's no smooth riding for even 5 meters in a row. It's pure corrugations. Or turn right, but you are into the most brutal headwind ever. Which one are you going to choose? Berta, you go first this time.
Corrugated all the way. Headwind is something that just gets to me, because it's like, there's nothing you can do about it. And it just like goes against you, and it's just like, I get very frustrated quite quickly. And then also the noise of the wind, like after a while, I feel like I'm going mad, and then I just want to turn it off, but you just can't, because even if you stop, the wind is still there.
Oh, okay. Team corrugation. What about you, Cris? Which one are you choosing?
I'm doubting here because I was thinking like Berta, but then I remember when I went bikepacking solo across the Canary Islands. Oh my God, Lanzarote and Tenerife are so windy, so windy. Every day I had headwind, and it was very loud. It was all these things. It was making it harder. But eventually, like I said previously, I got used to it. So it was not a bother anymore.
You know when we were joking about Jedi levels, it was the mosquitoes and the rain, and now this is like mastery, dealing with the headwind and it not affecting you. So does that mean you're team headwind?
I would say that, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so Cris is team headwind. Berta, you are corrugations. And Laura, I hope I will interview you at a later date and find out what you are as well. Okay, final question. And I love this because everyone has given me their own little unique answer. And that is, I want you to finish this sentence for me. And the sentence is, the best thing about taking a bike adventure is. So, Berta, you go first.
The best thing getting on a bike adventure is the unexpected, I would say. Like, that's what I enjoy, that you can plan many things when you go on a bike trip, but there's only so much you can plan, and there's always going to be things that you don't expect happening. And I personally find that exciting, especially if you're traveling, say, this for me, like traveling in Europe, for instance, where things are predictable to a certain extent, right? Like I kind of know what's going to be happening. But then when you get the bike element in there, that adds enough of of like something new and maybe unpredictable happening, and having to adapt to the situation, and just not really quite knowing how the day is going to be is something that I generally enjoy when I travel.
Oh, I love it. The unknown. I think you're the first person who's said the unknown, and I love that as an answer. That's brilliant. What about you, Cris? The best thing about a bike adventure is?
The amount of doors that it opens to you, from magical spots that you could not reach with any other vehicle to actual doors of people houses to flavors of food, because also it makes you so hangry.
Oh, it
And food
does.
is so tasteful when you're so hangry. It's just incomparable to any other way of traveling.
Oh, I love it. The door opener. What an awesome answer. I have loved it both. My gosh, Berta and Cris, it has been such an absolute pleasure. I have loved it from the first time I learnt about this event to speaking with you, and also you, Laura, as you listen back to this as well, just learning how this came together. I love it. I love it that it started from thinking, oh, I'd like to do this, and then collectively as a group realizing that you are stronger as a collective, and collectively you can then make this event happen. Too many people have great ideas but never put them into action. And you are all a perfect example of just give everything a go and see how it works. I am 100% certain you have created something that has got a long legacy ahead of it. I wish you the most amazing time at Bike Travel Fest number 2. Listeners, if you are able to, I 100% encourage you to go. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, experiences here on the show at Seek Travel Ride.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. Thanks for making this. It's felt very. We felt very comfortable, and it's felt very organic from the start. So thanks for being a great host.
We're gonna take your word on the organizing something together.
Oh my gosh, let's make it happen in the French Pyrenees.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, let's try and figure it out together. Virtual handshake over the phone. Listeners, watch this space. There you go, listeners. I know I must sound like a broken record, but I am super energized having spoken to Laura, Cris and Berta and learning all about what they've created there. But more importantly, just that idea of community and building a community around bike travel, passing knowledge on, sharing stories, sharing experiences. And also, I guess there's an element of mentoring all of this as well, isn't there? I especially loved a couple of stories that came out here. The first one was that someone who attended the very first Bike Travel Fest as a complete beginner has now skilled themselves up with enough confidence to set out on their own journey. Route 40 in Argentina of all places, mega power up to you. And the other one was also, the mechanical, and having someone there that could help someone through, but instead of being, the superhero that just goes and fixes the mechanical, actually takes it as a learning opportunity and passes the knowledge on to people as a group, where then later down the track, when Cris has this problem herself, it's like, oh, I remember how to do this, and actually helps themselves get out of a sticky situation. Again, it's through sharing stories and passing knowledge on and helping this experience is what grows a bike travel community. There's only good that can come from it. And I encourage everyone to be a part of it. And I thank Laura, Cris and Berta for sharing their experiences here for us all to hear. Now, listeners, if you love Seek Travel Ride and you enjoy listening to the show and you want to support me, you can do so by buying me some virtual coffees. Head to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride. Buy me a few virtual coffees, but more importantly, leave me a message and tell me what it is you love about the podcast and where your next bike adventure is going to take you. Until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening. And before you go, don't forget, Beyond the Bike is happening soon in London on May 14 and 15. It's going to be an incredible night of stories, film and adventure cycling insights with some of the most inspiring guests from the podcast. Tickets are available now, but they're not going to last. So head to the link in the show notes, grab yours, come to one night, or if you're a super fan, come to both. Grab your ticket before they're gone, and I hope to see you there. Before you go, just another shout out to our show sponsor, Old Man Mountain, and their new hemlock bags with flip cages. They're fork-mounted packs which will attach securely with a hook and lever flip, ensuring a stable, rattle-free ride and easy removal. They're built for durability, they're ideal for your bikepacking adventures. Check them out at our custom link, oldmanmountain.com/seek travel ride, or simply click the link in the show notes. Happy riding!